Hey everybody, great to have you back here in the fish tank. It is an exciting day that we've been waiting years for. Minion Masters 2.0 is upon us. I'm excited. Hopefully you guys are too. As you know, if you've been following along with the history of Minion Masters, this is a moment that we've been waiting years for. It's also a starting point for hopefully something that can be built to be even better in the future. Now today we're going to go over the patch changes for the new update. A lot of stuff has changed. If you've been following along with my previous videos or the blog posts, you will hopefully be aware, but we're going to go over the most important changes of what we will be seeing in the new version today. So hopefully you can join me, and hopefully we will enjoy this little journey, and it won't be long until we get our hands on the new version of the game. Now, without any further ado, the new version of the game, the new expansion, it is going to be called Mountain Song. And of course, there we see Tronveir, who we'll find out a little bit more about later, is the new master. So what is Mountain Song going to be bringing along for us? Now, this is, as we know, version 2.0. It's going to be available from Tuesday, the 12th of December. Now, I've been informed that the servers should be back up on Tuesday the 12th by 5 PM, and that's UTC. Potentially earlier, but that's the time that they are aiming for. So, obviously, we're going to have longer downtime than usual, but there's a lot. Not only is the game being updated, all of our old accounts are being migrated to the new platform, etc. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes, so that's why there's the extended downtime, but hopefully it will be worth it. Now, there is going to be, as we have come to expect, a free DLC that's going to accompany this expansion. The free DLC is going to be available from Thursday the 14th of December, so that's going to be available to everyone on Xbox and PC. So, reminder, this is just like a regular update, but it's a massive version of it. So everyone's going to go across to the new version. That's going to be Xbox and PC players. And then in the future, maybe Q1 2024, we'll have the mobile players joining us. So that's definitely something to look forward to. The new DLC is going to be Stoutheart themed, and it's going to have, for example, Urclaw as the legendary within that. So look out for that from Thursday onwards. As always, we're going to have some new tournaments, and we'll talk about those in a bit more detail, but there's an exciting change coming up for those based on the way that the new game will allow players to interact. As mentioned, we got a new master and a new card, a new season pass, a bunch of changes to the game, as always balance changes, and excitingly, the Nyrvir Plushie. Right, let's find out more about the tournaments. So, tournaments, as always, we've got our Knights Duel. That's our 1v1 single day event. That's going to be on Saturday the 23rd of December with a $400 prize pool. And my Fishbowl Brawl events, which are the play over time events where you get 3 days to play each of your matches. Those are 1v1 and 2v2 events, and they are going to be starting on the 19th of December, but registration for both of those will be open when you watch this video. And the link for that will be in the description. There's an overall 21,000 Ruby prize pool for my Fishbowl Brawls. Now, the change for these tournaments, it's not fully decided yet because there's some testing that we need to do. But with the way that the new game is being implemented, we now have access to cross-play, cross-platform lobbies. So that means if you're on PC, you can play with your friend who's on Xbox, whether that's in pre-mades or against each other in a lobby, etc. So that means that potentially we should be able to do cross-platform tournaments. So that's a tournament that encompasses both PC and Xbox players. Now, there is a discussion to be had, and I'll be interested to hear what you think about this. Let me know in the comments, because obviously there's going to be differences between the players on the different platforms. You know, you would think that Xbox players, the way that they interact with the game would have less of a, I'm trying not to offend anyone here, would have less of a skill ceiling than the PC players. You know, just kind of mouse and keyboard versus console controller. Now, as I understand it, there is not the potential to plug in a mouse and keyboard to Xbox, but that could be something that comes in the future. And one thing to mention is this new version of the game is being launched as a prologue early access. So the idea is that we get our hands on it and then we help sculpt it into something even better. So that's in the form of any bugs we can feedback, any suggestions that we have about things that could be implemented or implemented better. So the sort of thing that you can feedback is, hey, if you play on console and you would love to have mouse and keyboard, that's something that you could give some feedback on. So let me know what do you think about cross-platform tournaments. Would love to hear what you guys think about that. Now, as mentioned, the expansion, the figurehead of the expansion is Tronveir. So this is a new master, and we've not had a new master for a long time. Wrecked was the latest new master previously to this, and that's a good amount of time ago. Now, it's always exciting when a new master is added because, you know, that kind of shakes up the meta, makes it a bit more interesting, and but it's obviously from the developer's point of view, it's tricky to come up with a new master that is different enough from existing masters to make sense and be interesting from a play point of view and a deck building point of view, and also from a balance point of view. Now, if you've been involved in the PTRs, the test realms over the last year, you would have potentially had your hands on Tronveir, and there have been some changes since we last saw him, and we're definitely going to go through those now. Okay, let's find out about Tronveir. So Tronveir is going to be available in the Season Pass, Tier 5 in the Premium Pass, and Tier 50 in the Free Pass. Now, one thing to mention is the cost of the Season Pass is going down. So previously it was 1,250 rubies, now it's only 1,050 rubies. If you've been following along with my previous 2.0 videos, as well as maybe looking at the Minion Masters blog posts, you will have noticed that they have made some changes to the ruby economy. So it's more difficult to obtain rubies just through playing in the game, but also a lot of the things that cost rubies have been reduced in price, one of which is the Season Pass. Now, Tronveir, his auto attack and his perks, they revolve around this rune stone or rune stone. So his auto attack is called the Stone Smash, where he hurls this giant stone at a nearby enemy. It does 150 damage. That's huge damage for a master attack, but it's only once every 6 seconds. So it's very heavy hitting, but very, very slow, which is very different to other Minion Masters master attacks. It has a range of 10, which is generally the master range. Most masters have a range of 10. Not all, some have less, some have more, but overall it's mostly a range of 10. So, for example, Apep, Diona, they have a range of 10 to give you an idea. Interestingly, it also has a knockback, so that's something that no other master attacks have, and that's interesting because once a unit gets knocked back, then it can, depending on what kind of unit it is, what range it has, it can re-aggro. So it can be something that's locked onto face and then gets knocked away and then will attack whatever is closest. So that's definitely something we haven't seen before from a master attack, and that's really interesting. And that brings sort of a new mechanic that people need to be aware of when defending and placing their units appropriately. If you're paying very close attention, you may notice that there's also a new master icon for Milloween. A little bit of a side here, but I'm not sure why she gets that and no one else does, but that's just something I noticed. Right, so that's his auto attack. Now let's have a look at his perks. So perk 1, rune carving. So every 30 seconds you get a runestone card added to the top of your deck. Now this runestone card will have one of 3 carvings: Rune of Wind, Rune of Frost, or Rune of Ancestry. I think the way it works is you get a random one to start with and then it just cycles through them, just like how most random stuff works in this game. And the different runes do different things. So the Rune of Wind, as you see here, has a +6 range, so it's a longer range than the other runes, and it deals 200 damage in an area. So it's a removal spell, effectively. It's not a spell, it would be an ability, since most masters have abilities and not spells. But that's what the Rune of Wind does. Rune of Frost, it's when you throw it, it lands. It has Taunt. It also has a 300 health shield that inflicts frozen on nearby enemies when the shield is depleted. And the Rune of Ancestry has it summons 2 Ancestry minions. Now, they were originally melee minions. The last time I saw them, they were ranged. I haven't been able to double check this time, but I think they're still ranged. So these runes will cost 2 mana, as you can see there. You have a minimum and a maximum range. They have 150 health, and they last for 15 seconds. So this is all about using these and supporting your units and using them appropriately. Right, so that's his perk 1, Runestone every 30 seconds. Next up, perk 2. This is Runic Empowerment. So this takes these buffs to the next level, where when you play a Runestone, the next ground minion you play gets a buff or a runic power based on what kind of rune you played. So, for example, the Rune of Wind, the next ground minion will have an empowered first attack, and its first attack will do an extra 100 damage in an area. But it's only a one-time thing, so you need to use it at the right time and think about what you're going to play next. Rune of Frost, the next ground minion you plays, has Taunt and a shield equal to its health, maximum of 300. And again, it inflicts frozen on the nearby minions when depleted. And the Rune of Ancestry, when you play your next ground minion, they are supported by these extra Ancestry minions. So perk 1 is just throwing the rune, perk 2 is throwing the rune and then empowering your next ground minion. Right, and then perk 3, so you reduce the cooldown, so it was 30 seconds, reduces the cooldown by 5 seconds to 25. And what happens is, once you hit perk 3, the next time you gain a runestone, you get a wordstone. So this is a one-time only thing, and a wordstone is a runestone that has all 3 of the carvings on it. So it will do the damage, it will have the taunt and the shield and the support. So a big amount of value, but just that one time. And additionally, the next ground minion that spawns after this will have all 3 empowerments as well. So it's a big power spike, but you also get the overall 5-second cooldown as well. So those are the changes, or sorry, those are the perks for Tronveir. There have been a few changes since we last saw him. The taunt is new for sure. That is something that we didn't see previously. Now, in the battle pass, there is a skin for Tronveir, the Gravedigger skin. This is going to be a tier 38 in the premium pass. So instead of holding a rune, he's holding this coffin, and he will throw that coffin as his auto attack. Now, additionally, as well as a new master, we have a new card, and the new card is the Stormtamer. Now, the Stormtamer is, as we can see here, it's a Stoutheart minion. It's a 4 mana minion. And it is a ranged minion that can hit ground and air. Now, when it attacks a minion, it lifts the minion into the air. And whilst that minion is in the air, it becomes a flying minion. But it can no longer attack or move while it's in the cyclone. So, if you think about things like the Net Blast or Unholy Ground, that's taking things in the air and bringing them down. This is kind of the opposite, where it's taking things on the ground and putting them up. Not quite the same, since this is like a full CC. It's not a stun, but it does prevent the unit from attacking. And it is interesting because your melee units, for example, will then de-aggro from this unit while it's in the air, since it's flying. So this will be cool to see. I believe that the stun, not the stun, but the CC, the crowd control, is 2.5 seconds. And that's every 5 seconds. It's low DPS, but it is specifically about this crowd control effect. So it'll be interesting to see how this guy works out. And so that's the new master and the new card. Again, if you've been following along with the previous videos, you'll know that there's a lot of game changes. Some of these are permanent, some of these are kind of being trialed. So as mentioned before, this is early access, so it's super important that you guys try and give your feedback. So the devs will be looking to hear feedback from you either via the feedback in the game or through the Discord specifically. Maybe on Steam, but that's not really a really fully supported avenue for feedback, I don't think. But yeah, so please try out the new stuff and give your thoughts on the things that have changed, for example. So if we look at the changes here, so Guild Conquest has been removed. I wasn't really a fan of Guild Conquest. It's fun at lower levels, but when you get very highly ranked, it really becomes a chore. Having to use these awful decks against meta decks is just not really a particularly fun time. So Guild Conquest has been removed. The big issue is a lot of people didn't like it, okay, and wanted it improved. The big issue right now is that it hasn't been replaced by anything. So hopefully in the future we'll get it replaced by something, but at the moment it's just been removed and there's no replacement for it, which makes guilds feel kind of irrelevant at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see what that gets replaced with in the future at some point. If you've got any ideas, of course, feed them back, suggest them. Now, I think the 4 old adventures have been removed, and if you had them, you will be reimbursed in gold, I think. But there will be new adventures coming. We don't have any new adventures yet, but there will be new adventures coming. The Tri-Team Tourney was also removed. Remember, that was the thing where you were you're earning the keys from playing your games, winning your games, or watching streamers. Before that, unfortunately, broke. That has been removed, but the rewards and stuff for that have been sort of pushed into the season pass, so you shouldn't lose out on any rewards. But always sad to see features go and not get replaced with new things, but remember, this is a starting point to move forward, and hopefully we'll get some cool stuff going forward. Right, there's been an update to Draft, which this is a change that they're trialing, and it's very important that, of course, we give our feedback. So they're introducing faction pools for the Masters, which means each Master will only be able to draw cards from 4 of the 9 factions. And the idea is that allows a lot of the cards that have very specific synergies that previously were outlawed in the draft to come back into it. So having the availability of more cards overall is good, but I don't like this faction restriction. Draft for me is about just getting almost anything and trying to make it work, whereas with these faction pools, I feel like it's going to make the draft feel, a lot of the draft decks will feel very cookie cutter, and it will not be as far removed from the ladder meta as it was previously, and that was one of the beauties of it. So I'm not looking forward to this, but I am looking forward to trying it. I don't think I'll like it, but I want to try it, and then we'll give our feedback. Right, battle chests have been replaced by daily quests, and the ranked rewards have been consolidated into a single track. So that means instead of having to get, for example, Grandmaster in all 3 game modes to get the Grandmaster rewards, you only need to do that in 1 game mode. So if you're the sort of player that doesn't like playing other game modes, you have your game mode, so whether that's solos, pre-mades or randoms, you can just concentrate on that. There is some additional rewards from getting Contender in 2 and 3 game modes, but that's something that not many people are going to get hold of. Right, so those are the changes. There are other things, but these are the most important things I think that we need to talk about. Now, next up, we're going to have a look at the balance changes. As always, there's going to be some balances, nerfs, buffs, rebalances, and it's always interesting to hear from you guys when things are changed like this. Are they changed in the way you were expected? Are the things that you thought were too strong or too weak getting addressed? Are there other things that have been ignored? Always interesting to have that conversation. So always let me know in the comments, what do you think about changes such as these. Right, so Milloween. She's getting a small buff where her perk 2 cooldown, the arcane missiles, is going up from 25 seconds, or going down, sorry, to 22 seconds. So I think Milloween needs something. I think the golem just needs a little bit of extra range or something just to make it feel just a little more pleasant to play. Right, next up we have the arcane ring. This isn't a change specifically to the arcane ring. This is a buff to the arcane spheres. So with the arcane ring, you get 8 of these spheres, which do now 35 damage, previously 30 damage. But this buff is also going to be felt by other units that use the spheres. So that's the Spell Dancer and the Dormant Defenders. Next up is a Demon Warrior buff, health going up from 325 to 350. This is a card, if you've been following along in the last few seasons, you will have known that they changed it. So now it's the 4th time that she triggers instead of the 6th time, and she's double instead of triple. And she went from being very, very strong to not great, and now maybe getting back to a decent position. So Demon Warrior health going up. Next up is the Frostberry Bearer. This is an ability range increase. So the ability is when a nearby friendly minion drops to the threshold of 50% health, it freezes it and heals it. Basically gives it Glenn's Brew. And the range previously was 8. The range is going up to 10. For reference, a range of 10 is that of the Crystal Archers. So that's quite a decent range. I still feel like the Frostberry Bearer is not in a great spot. I would like to see something that allows you to tank with it, because it is designed as a tank. It does have the thick hide, but because you want the abilities to trigger, you normally want it behind the back line. So it's kind of a bit mixed as to what its role should be. So I'd like to see something that when it dies, if it's got the charges still on its back, the barrels there, something happens. So you can tank with it without just wasting its charges. Right, next up we have Jezra the Void Mother. So her Void Tear ability, the cast speed of it is going up by 20%. So that's when she summons either the Elite Swarmers in front of her or the Cowardly Imps behind her. I always felt using her that the spawn time of those units felt obnoxiously slow compared to everything else in the game. I don't know why it was so slow. Hopefully this will make it better. Well, I mean, it will make it better. Hopefully this makes it feel like just spawning things normally, and you can start using things reactively rather than having to wait 8 seconds for them to spawn, or, you know, whatever it was. Right, next up we see a buff to Lord Sentinel Thelek. Health going up from 600 to 650. I mean, Thelek will appreciate the buff, but I still feel he needs a rework. The fact that he and his archers are so susceptible to spell removal just makes it one of those cards that generally does nothing. In a few situations, it's very, very good if you don't have the removal spells, but most people have the removal spells to deal with it. So I'd like to see some kind of change to allow him to be less coin flippy. Right, Magma Cannon. Health going up from 400 to 450. I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like it was pretty strong anyway. But if you've been using it, you'll be happy, because now it's going to be even stronger. Right, next up is a buff to Mountain Shaper. So remember, Mountain Shaper a few seasons ago was changed. So it, instead of covering the entire arena, only covered sort of half or a third of it. But it was longer. Less girth, more length. But that kind of killed the card. Nobody was using it. So the change here is for it to do more damage. So 65 up to 75. And remember, that damage is per charge, of which you can have 10 charges. So that means the max damage is up from 650 to 750. Is it going to make it better? Yes. Will we see more of it? Probably. Is it going to be meta? I don't think so. Okay, next up, the Net Blaster. Attack cooldown going down from 5 seconds to 4.5 seconds. Looks like I put the green box in the wrong place. Actual legend. But it was close enough. So a small buff there. I feel this is a card that needs to be handled with care. It has a very strong CC effect, crowd control, and if it gets buffed too much, it's going to get out of control. Okay, Nyrvir's Breath. Remember again, a few seasons ago, if not maybe last season, I'm not sure. The Accursed Ascension damage buff was removed entirely. So previously it did 130 and then 260 damage when you got Ascension. That was removed to just do a flat 150, and now it's been buffed to do a flat 175. So more damage. Doesn't really kill much more than it previously did. Will now be able to kill a Blast Monster and a Spirit Monster, where previously it couldn't before, but just a little bit more strength. Now, Snap Freeze, this is kind of a buff, stroke a bug fix, stroke a quality of life, sensible kind of thing. So it always did 25 damage, but when they changed it for the Frozen to be immediate, the 25 damage that it did, half of it was negated by the unit being frozen. So now it's been changed. It's not doing true damage, it's just ignoring frozen. So it will do 25 damage to the units even though they're frozen. So that's kind of... It's a buff because it's going to be stronger than it was before, but it's was it a bug or a feature? I don't know, but it's going to be better than it was before. Now, Rimagal's Breath. This is being changed to be a defensive spell. And that means you can only spawn it on your side of the field. So you can no longer just overlap it on the bridges. So that's one of the restrictions. Additionally, because it's a defensive spell, you will always cast it on your side. Now, previously, you had the option. You could cast it on your side or the opponent's side. And that would choose where the first flyby, because remember it flies across and then back again. So normally people would cast it on their opponent's side, so the initial flyby would be on the opponent's side, which makes it quite easy to target it. Now the initial flyby is going to be on your side, and then the second flyby will be on the enemy side. So that's going to make it more difficult to target, especially moving units. So that's something that you will definitely have to keep in mind when you're casting it. A very strong spell. I think this is a healthy change. Don't think it's going to kill the card. I think it's still going to be there. Right, so those are the balance changes. But that's not all. We still have some more. Now, if you've followed the history of Minion Masters, you will know many moons ago there was the Mana Plushie, the Mana Puff Plushie. Awesome little guy. A bunch of us got our hands on this, and we've been waiting to see what the next one was going to be, and or if there was going to be a next one. The good news is there was a community vote. It's going to be the Nyrvir the Fallen plushie, and that looks just like this. So as per the previous plushie, this will be available for a limited time, and excitingly this time every purchase gets 500 rubies as well. Now, I'll put a link in the description for this. Depending on when you're watching this video, it may or may not be live. But as mentioned, it's limited edition, so it'll only be available for a certain period of time. So if you want to get it quick. I don't think there's a maximum number that will be sold, but there's a maximum period of time. Once that period of time ends, that is it. No more. Right, so look forward to getting our hands on the new Nyrvir the Fallen plushie. Okay, so that is it. Minion Masters 2.0 is here. Tuesday the 12th of December. As mentioned, the servers should be up by 5 PM UTC. Free DLC coming on Thursday the 14th of December. Look out for that. Make sure you claim it. You don't want to miss that. And as always, we got our new tournaments. We got the new Master Tronveir and the new card, the Stormtamer. New Season Pass. We went through many of the game changes, a lot of the balance changes, and of course, the Nyrvir plushie. So a lot of cool stuff to look forward to. But remember, this is early access. So get your hands on the game, test it out, let the devs know. What do you like? What do you don't like? Do you have any ideas for new features, improving things, etc.? Together, we can make this awesome. And that's it. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this video. I appreciate you joining me. If you want to keep up to date with everything Minion Masters related here in the fish tank, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And as always, engage the matrix or the algorithm by dropping me a comment. What are you most excited for? What do you think about the new master, the new card, some of the new features? Right, so that's it. Pretty sure that's everything I want to cover. I look forward to seeing you guys on the battlefield when 2.0 is live soon. My name's Bad as a Fish, and as always, I'm awkwardly waving.